10 years of marriage. 10 years of thinking we couldn't have children. She had a daughter the whole time. Our whole marriage. Original post. I'm writing this at 3 a.m. because I can't sleep. I haven't slept in 4 days. My hands are still shaking as I type this, and I keep having to stop because I start crying and can't see the screen. I don't even know why I'm posting here. Maybe because I need someone to tell me I'm not insane. Maybe because I need to say this out loud to strangers because I can't say it to anyone I know. Not yet. I'm 38 years old. I've been married for 10 years. 4 days ago, I thought I had a good marriage. Not perfect, but good. Solid. Built on trust and shared grief and the kind of love that survives disappointment. I was wrong about everything. It started with car keys. That's the stupid, mundane detail that keeps echoing in my head. Car keys. My wife asked me to grab her keys from her purse because she was in the shower and running late for work. I've done this 1,000 times. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't suspicious. I was just looking for keys. The birthday card was in the side pocket. Pink envelope. Glittery. The kind you buy for a little girl. I almost didn't open it. It wasn't my business, but something made me pause. We don't have any nieces. Her friends' kids are all teenagers now. Happy 8th birthday to the best daughter in the world. Love, Mommy. My wife doesn't have a daughter. We don't have children. We've spent 10 years trying. I stood there in our bedroom, holding this card, and the world just stopped. My brain couldn't process it. A daughter? What daughter? This had to be a mistake. A card she bought for someone else's kid. A joke. Something. Anything. But the handwriting was hers. I know her handwriting. I've seen it on grocery lists and love notes and the sympathy cards she sent to friends. That was her handwriting. I put the card back. I brought her the keys. I smiled. I said, "Have a good day at work." And the moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I went back to that purse and I started looking. I wish I hadn't. I wish I just asked her about the card and let her lie to me one more time. I need to give you the background so you understand why this is destroying me. My wife and I met when we were both 26. We got married 2 years later. We always wanted kids. That was part of the plan. The house, the careers, the family. We started trying on our honeymoon. After 2 years of nothing, she went to a fertility specialist. I remember that appointment. I remember sitting in the waiting room, nervous but optimistic. I remember her coming out with red eyes and a pamphlet about coping with infertility. She told me the doctor said her chances of conceiving naturally were almost zero. Something about her ovaries, her hormone levels, the technical medical terminology that I nodded along to without really understanding. What I understood was that my wife was devastated. What I understood was that our dream of having children had just died. I held her in that parking lot for 20 minutes while she sobbed. Over the next 8 years, we tried everything. 4 rounds of IVF. $80,000. Our entire savings. Money we'd set aside for our kids' college education spent trying to have kids in the first place. Each cycle was the same. The hope. The hormones that made her emotional and sick. The waiting. The pregnancy test. The negative result. The grief. I held her through all of it. Every negative test. Every failed cycle. Every moment when she would break down and say she felt like a failure as a woman, and I would tell her that I loved her, that we didn't need children to be happy, that she was enough for me. I meant it. I meant every word. We talked about adoption. Started the paperwork twice. Both times, she said she wasn't ready. Said she needed more time to grieve the biological children we'd never have. I understood. I gave her that time. I thought we were partners in grief. I thought we were surviving something terrible together. 10 years. 10 years of marriage. 10 years of thinking we couldn't have children. She had a daughter the whole time. Our whole marriage. After she left for work that day, I searched. I'm not proud of it, but I searched everything. Her purse. Her drawers. Her side of the closet. I found the second phone in a shoebox behind her winter boots. It was charged. It was on. It had a pink glittery case, the kind a mom might pick to match her daughter's aesthetic. The passcode was our anniversary. Our anniversary. Like some sick joke. The photos. God, the photos. My wife, smiling, holding a little girl who looks exactly like her. Same eyes. Same smile. Same way of tilting her head when she laughs. My wife at birthday parties. At Christmas. At what looks like a first day of school, holding a little backpack and beaming at the camera. My wife with a man I don't recognize. Tall. Dark hair. Looking at her the way I look at her. Family photos. A whole family. A whole life. There were hundreds of them. 8 years of photos. 8 years of moments I never knew existed. The little girl in those photos has her eyes. Her smile. The child I spent a decade grieving for already existed. Just not with me. I sat on our bedroom floor for 3 hours, scrolling through that phone. I watched my wife be a mother. I watched her celebrate holidays and birthdays and ordinary Tuesday afternoons with a child she never told me about. I watched her build a life with another man while I was at home, waiting for her to come back from business trips. The business trips. She travels for work. Sales conferences. Client meetings. Training seminars. She's gone maybe 4 or 5 days a month, sometimes more. She wasn't at conferences. She was with them. Her other family. Update 1. The confrontation, day 5. I waited 3 days before I confronted her. I needed to be calm. I needed to not scream. I needed to understand. I made dinner that night. Her favorite, chicken parmesan. I set the table nicely. I poured wine. When she came home, she smiled and said it smelled amazing and asked what the occasion was. I put the birthday card on the table between us. I've never seen someone's face change that fast. It was like watching a mask fall off. The color drained from her skin. Her hands started shaking. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. "Who is she?" I asked. She started crying immediately. Not the gentle crying I'd comforted so many times. This was different. This was the crying of someone who'd been caught. Someone who knew their life was over. The story came out in fragments. Between sobs and apologies and "please let me explain" and "it's not what you think, it was exactly what I thought," she told me everything. 9 years ago, she had an affair. A co-worker. It lasted 6 months. She said she was going to end it. She said it meant nothing. And then she got pregnant. She couldn't abort it. She said she wanted to, that she knew it would destroy everything, but she couldn't go through with it. Some part of her wanted that baby. But she couldn't tell me. She couldn't face me. So she told the other man the baby was his, which it was, and she told him she needed time. That she couldn't leave me right away. That she needed to figure things out. She told me she was infertile. I held her while she cried about being infertile. I told her I loved her anyway. I spent $80,000 on IVF. She was never infertile. She just couldn't have a baby with me because she already had one with him. "The IVF," I said, and my voice didn't even sound like mine. "You let me spend $80,000 on IVF. You knew it would never work. You knew because there was nothing wrong with you." She tried to explain. She said she couldn't tell me the truth. She said the IVF was her trying to make it right. Like if she could just have a baby with me, it would fix everything. Like our child could erase her other child. But the cycles kept failing. She said she couldn't understand why. She'd gotten pregnant so easily before. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break every dish in our kitchen. Instead, I asked about the other man. Did he know about me? He knew she was married. He knew she was working up the courage to leave. He'd been waiting 9 years for her to leave me. He thought she loved him. He thought she was just scared. She said she was going to tell me, someday. Someday. Our entire marriage was her waiting for the right moment to destroy me. "Did you ever love me?" I asked. She said yes. She said she loved me. She said she loved both lives. She said she loved being my wife and she loved being her daughter's mother, and she knew it was wrong, but she couldn't give up either one. I looked at this woman I'd spent a decade with. This woman I'd held through grief that wasn't real. This woman who watched me mourn children we'd never have while she was raising one in secret. "You don't do this to someone you love," I said. "You don't watch them grieve for a child while you're raising one in secret. You don't let them spend their savings on treatments you know will never work. That's not love. That's cruelty with a wedding ring." I slept in the guest room that night. She tried to come in at 2 a.m. I locked the door. Update 2. The Aftermath and Legal Steps, Week 3. I'm going to try to write this update as clearly as I can, but I'm still not functioning at full capacity. I've lost about 15 pounds because I can't eat. I'm sleeping maybe 3 hours a night. My therapist says this is normal, that what I'm experiencing is grief compounded by betrayal compounded by the specific cruelty of what she did. The worst part isn't the affair. Affairs happen. People make mistakes. I might have been able to forgive an affair, eventually, with enough time and therapy and work. The worst part is the hope. She let me hope for 10 years. She watched me dream about being a father while she was a mother to someone else's child. She watched me research baby names. She watched me browse strollers online. She watched me tear up at commercials with fathers holding their newborns. She knew I wanted to be a dad more than almost anything in the world, and she let me believe I never could be, while she spent weekends braiding her daughter's hair and helping her with homework. That's the part one can't get past. That's the part that wakes me up at 3 a.m. I filed for divorce. I hired the best family law attorney I could find, a woman who came highly recommended by a colleague who went through a difficult divorce a few years ago. When I sat down in her office and told her my story, she didn't flinch. She took notes. She asked clarifying questions. And then she told me something that gave me the first bit of hope I'd felt in weeks. This isn't just infidelity, she said. This is fraud. She induced you to spend marital assets, significant marital assets, under false pretenses. The IVF expenses, specifically, were incurred based on a lie she told you about her medical condition. That's actionable. I didn't want revenge. I still don't, not really. But I wanted fairness. I wanted to not be the victim in all of this. I wanted something, anything, to go my way. My attorney drafted the divorce petition. We're citing fraud and misrepresentation alongside the infidelity. We're seeking an unequal division of assets based on the money I was fraudulently induced to spend. We're documenting everything, the IVF receipts, the business trip records that don't match any actual business, the timeline of her secret life. My wife tried to fight it at first. She hired her own attorney. She sent me emails begging me to reconsider, to go to counseling, to give her a chance to make this right. Make it right. Like there's a way to give me back the last 10 years. Like there's a way to ungrieve the children I mourned. Like there's a way to unknow that while I was crying in fertility clinic waiting rooms, she was picking her daughter up from school. I didn't respond to the emails. I let my attorney handle everything. There's one thing I haven't mentioned because it's almost too painful to write. The other man reached out to me. I don't know how he got my number. Maybe from her phone, maybe she told him about the confrontation, but he called me about a week after everything fell apart. He apologized. He said he had no idea she'd been lying to me about being infertile. He said she told him I knew about the affair and the child, that we had an arrangement, that I was fine with everything. He believed her. For 9 years, he believed her. She told me you didn't want kids, he said. She said you knew about our daughter and you were okay with it because you didn't want to be a father. I couldn't speak for a long moment. She had lied to both of us. She had constructed 2 separate realities, told 2 separate men 2 separate stories, and kept them running in parallel for almost a decade. I spent $80,000 on fertility treatments, I finally said. I wanted children more than anything. The silence on the other end of the line told me everything I needed to know about his reaction. He's leaving her too, apparently. He's pursuing custody of their daughter. He sent me a message a few days later saying he was sorry for his part in all of this, even though he didn't know the full truth. I told him I didn't blame him. I don't. He was deceived too. My wife is losing both her lives. The 2 worlds she built are collapsing at the same time. Part of me feels something about that. I'm not sure if it's satisfaction or pity or both. Update 3. The divorce proceedings, month 4. The divorce is moving forward. It's not fast, these things never are, but my attorney is confident about the outcome. My wife's attorney tried to argue that the IVF expenses shouldn't be considered fraud because my wife genuinely believed she was infertile. They produced some medical records, suggested that she might have been given incorrect information by a doctor, implied that this was all a misunderstanding. My attorney shut that down pretty quickly. She subpoenaed the actual medical records from the fertility clinic. The diagnosis was real, but it was my wife who provided the information that led to it. She told the doctors about her symptoms. She described her menstrual irregularities. She essentially manufactured the diagnosis by lying to medical professionals. And then there was the pregnancy test she took 2 months after the first IVF cycle failed. Positive. For her daughter. She wasn't infertile when she started IVF, she was already pregnant with another man's child. She knew before the first needle, before the first hormone injection, before I wrote the first check. She knew she wasn't infertile. She knew she could get pregnant. She just needed to explain to me why she couldn't get pregnant with me. When that evidence came out, her attorney's strategy shifted. They stopped fighting for an equal split. Now they're just trying to minimize the damage. I've been going to therapy twice a week. My therapist specializes in betrayal trauma. Yes, that's a real specialty, and yes, I needed someone who understood the specific kind of damage this causes. She's helped me understand that what I'm feeling isn't just sadness or anger, it's grief. Complex grief. I'm mourning the loss of my marriage, the loss of the future I thought I had, and, most painfully, the loss of the children I spent a decade grieving for who were never actually lost. I spent 10 years mourning children that didn't exist. She spent 10 years hiding a child that did. That sentence keeps running through my head. My therapist says it's my brain trying to process an incomprehensible truth. That the reality is so far outside normal human experience that my mind keeps circling back to it, trying to make sense of something senseless. I've told some people now. Close friends. My brother. It's easier than I expected, in a way. Everyone is so shocked that there's no judgment, just pure disbelief. Nobody asks, how could you not know? Because how could anyone know? She was meticulous. She was dedicated. She lived a double life with the skill of a trained spy. My brother flew in for a weekend. We sat on my back porch and drank beer and didn't talk for long stretches. Sometimes that's what you need. Someone who will just be there without demanding anything from you. What are you going to do after? He asked me eventually. After the divorce. After all of it. When this is done. What do you want? I thought about it for a long time. A year ago, I would have said I wanted a family. Kids. The whole picture. Now I don't know. The dream feels tainted. Every image I have of fatherhood is wrapped up in the grief she made me feel, the hope she let me have, the years I spent mourning something that was never actually lost. I want to be able to trust someone again, I finally said. I want to believe that what I see is real. He nodded. He didn't have any advice. There isn't any advice for this. Update 4. Resolution, month 8. The divorce was finalized 3 days ago. I got the house. I got most of our savings, what's left of them. I got my retirement accounts, which she wanted half of despite everything. The judge agreed that the IVF expenses constituted fraud and ordered an unequal division in my favor. My attorney called it a significant victory. It doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like closing a wound that will never fully heal. My ex-wife didn't show up for the final hearing. Her attorney represented her. I heard later that she's moved to be closer to her daughter. The other man got primary custody, but she has visitation rights. She's starting over, I guess. Building a third life now that the first two have collapsed. Part of me wonders about the little girl. She's 8 years old. She has her mother's eyes. She didn't ask for any of this. For 8 years, she had a mom who showed up for half her life and disappeared for the other half. Now her parents aren't together. Now her mother is the villain in a story she's too young to understand. I don't blame that child for anything. I hope she's okay. I hope she has people who love her unconditionally, without secrets, without double lives. But I can't think about her too much. It's too painful. She's the physical embodiment of everything I lost. Not just the marriage, but the experience of fatherhood that my ex-wife stole from me by making me believe it was impossible. The other man and I have talked a few more times. It's strange. We're connected now by this shared experience of being deceived by the same woman. He's not a bad person. He loved her. He thought he was building a future with her. He was lied to as much as I was, just in different ways. He told me that the little girl asks about me sometimes. My ex-wife apparently talked about me, her other life, more than she should have. The child knows there was a man her mommy was married to, a man who didn't know about her. She's confused about what that means. She asked if you were sad, he told me. She asked if you wanted a little girl too. I had to hang up after that. I couldn't keep talking. Final update. 1 year later. It's been a year since I found that birthday card. 12 months since my life fell apart. I'm writing this final update because some people have asked how I'm doing, and because I think it might help me to put this chapter to rest. The short answer is, I'm better. Not healed. I don't know if you ever fully heal from something like this, but better. I'm still in therapy. I'll probably be in therapy for a long time. We've worked through a lot of the grief, a lot of the anger, a lot of the specific pain of infertility betrayal. My therapist has helped me understand that what my ex-wife did wasn't about me. It wasn't because I was lacking something or because I failed in some way. It was about her. Her inability to face difficult choices. Her cowardice. Her willingness to sacrifice everyone else to avoid her own discomfort. Understanding that doesn't erase the pain, but it helps me carry it. I've started dating someone new. Taking it very, very slow. She's patient and kind and she knows the whole story. I told her on our third date because I couldn't bear the thought of secrets, of hidden things, of truths that come out later and destroy everything. She listened. She asked questions. She didn't run. "That's not your story," she said. "That's something that happened to you. I want to know who you are." I'm still figuring out who I am. 10 years of my life were built on a lie, and it's hard to separate the real parts from the false ones. I loved my ex-wife. That was real. The grief I felt about not being able to have children, that was real too, even though the cause was manufactured. The hope, the dreams, the visions of a future with kids, all real, even though they were based on a deception. My therapist says that's one of the cruelest aspects of this kind of betrayal. The emotions were genuine. The experiences were genuine. But the foundation was false. It's like discovering that a house you've lived in for years was built on sand. The house was real, your life in it was real, but it was always going to collapse. I still think about being a father sometimes. I'm 38. It's not too late. I could still have children if I meet the right person, if things work out, if I can trust enough to try again. But I'm not rushing toward that anymore. I'm not measuring my life by whether or not I have kids. For 10 years, that metric was used against me, turned into a weapon, a source of grief, a way to keep me trapped in a marriage built on lies. Now I'm measuring my life differently. Am I present? Am I honest? Am I building something real? The answer is yes. Or at least, the answer is that I'm trying. I don't know what happened to my ex-wife. We don't communicate. I've blocked her on everything. My attorney handles any remaining legal matters. I heard through mutual friends that she's struggling, that losing both relationships at the same time was devastating for her, that she's in therapy herself, that she's trying to rebuild. I don't wish her ill. I don't wish her well either. I've worked hard to reach a place of neutrality, where she's not a demon and not a victim but just a person who made terrible choices and destroyed multiple lives in the process. She wasn't pure evil. I know that. She was someone who made one terrible choice and then couldn't find a way out. One choice led to another, led to another, led to a decade of lies. Each year, the truth got harder to tell. Each year, there was more at stake. She trapped herself, and in trapping herself, she trapped me. But I don't excuse her. Understanding isn't excusing. She could have told me the truth at any point. After the affair. After the pregnancy. After the first IVF cycle. After the second. After the 5th year. After the 8th. Every single day for 10 years, she chose deception over honesty. That wasn't one terrible choice. That was thousands of terrible choices, each one made deliberately, each one a betrayal. Someone asked me in my last post if I had any advice for people going through something similar. I don't know if this counts as advice, but here's what I've learned. You will survive this. It doesn't feel like it. There will be nights when you can't breathe, days when you can't eat, moments when you're certain the pain will kill you. It won't. You are stronger than you know. Get help. Therapy, friends, family, whatever support you can find. You cannot carry this alone. You shouldn't have to. Don't rush toward recovery. There's no timeline for healing from betrayal. Anyone who tells you to move on or get over it doesn't understand what you're going through. Take the time you need. The person who did this to you, whatever their reasons, whatever their justifications, they were wrong. You didn't deserve this. You didn't cause this. You couldn't have prevented this. Their choices are not your failure. And finally, there is life after. It's different than the life you planned. It's not the future you imagined. But it's real. It's yours. And that's something your betrayer can never take from you. I spent 10 years mourning a child that didn't exist. She spent 10 years hiding a child that did. We were grieving in the same house but living in different worlds. I'll never get those years back. But I can make sure the next 10 are real. That's what I'm doing. One day at a time. One honest conversation at a time. One step at a time, away from the lies and towards something true. To everyone who read this, who commented, who sent messages of support, thank you. You helped me feel less alone in the darkest period of my life. I hope wherever you are, whatever you're going through, you find your way to something real too. This will be my last update. Thanks for following my story. Take care of yourselves. Here's what I learned about betrayal. Understanding isn't excusing. She could have told me the truth at any point. Every single day for 10 years, she chose deception over honesty. That wasn't one terrible choice. That was thousands of terrible choices. 10 years. 10 years of marriage. 10 years of thinking we couldn't have children. She had a daughter the whole time. Our whole marriage. I held her while she cried about being infertile. I told her I loved her anyway. I spent $80,000 on IVF. She was never infertile. She just couldn't have a baby with me because she already had one with him. The little girl in those photos has her eyes. Her smile. The child I spent a decade grieving for already existed. Just not with me. She said she was going to tell me, someday. Someday. Our entire marriage was her waiting for the right moment to destroy me. The worst part isn't the affair. It's the hope. She let me hope for 10 years. She watched me dream about being a father while she was a mother. To someone else's child. I asked her, "Did you ever love me?" She said yes. I said, "You don't do this to someone you love. You don't watch them grieve for a child while you're raising one in secret. That's not love. That's cruelty with a wedding ring." I spent 10 years mourning a child that didn't exist. She spent 10 years hiding a child that did. We were grieving in the same house but living in different worlds. I'll never get those years back. But I can make sure the next 10 are real.